Which exercise is better for fat loss? Cardio or lifting weights? I'm gonna break it all down and then some in this video. Let's start with cardio. If you look at your typical global big box commercial gym, like a Gold's Gym, for example, there's usually a big portion that's just dedicated towards cardio machines. It's not uncommon to see 4 or 5 rows of these torture devices. And you can bet that at any given time, they're occupied with men and women sweating their hearts out. That's what I mean, by the way, when I say cardio. I'm talking about soul-crushing, steady-state, chronic cardio. I'm in Mexico right now and I see the same people running as if they stole something when I'm out for my daily walk every day. Same concept. Cardio-based group fitness classes like spin, for example, falls in this category as well. And I just have to assume that most people doing this type of steady state cardio believe that they're somehow burning fat. They think that their sweat is basically their fat cells crying. And a lot of the confusion over what type of exercise you should do comes from this oversimplistic weight loss paradigm that we've now been led to believe for decades. Because most people are interested in fat loss. They want to lose all their unwanted body fat. I mean, we're in the midst of an obesity epidemic. Because being obese or even just being overweight raises your risk and even contributes to all the major chronic health problems that plague society today. Whether it's hyperinsulinemia, which eventually leads to type 2 diabetes, heart disease, cancer, and the catch-all term for that is metabolic syndrome, as well as Alzheimer's and dementia. And we've known this for decades now. The scary part is only 12% of American adults are metabolically healthy, according to a recent study. That is an alarming stat. So we work out as a remedy. And the fitness paradigm that we've been sold has some truth to it. It's based off of the calories in versus calories out model. The thinking is that in order to lose weight, it's all about the calories. Specifically, you want to create a calorie deficit. You have to burn more calories than you're taking in. That's where the law of thermodynamics just gets thrown out blindly, even though it's so much more nuanced than that. But let's just play along for a second. Again, the idea is that in order to lose body fat, you have to be on a calorie deficit. That's the weight loss model that we've been led to believe. And much like simply counting the calories of the food that you eat, exercise primarily became a method of burning calories. The value of exercise was then simplified to how many calories am I burning doing this particular workout. So basically, whichever exercise burns the most calories is going to be the best for weight loss. In that particular context, cardio is definitely the best calorie burner compared to other forms of exercise. For example, an hour of cardio burns more calories than an hour of walking or resistance training. Here's the problem with that particular paradigm. And there's so many problems because the human metabolism is so complex. It's not even funny. Like, the only thing that's more complex is the human brain. But here we are just dumbing it down and reducing it to just counting calories. Also, however many calories it says that you burn on the treadmill or the elliptical is not accurate. But one of the biggest problems of this paradigm is ignoring literally the most important part of exercise, which is how is the body adapting to that specific exercise? Because the human body is an adaptation machine. That's how we rose to the top of the food chain. Exercise is a type of hormetic stress. It's the what doesn't kill you makes you stronger type of stress, if you do it properly. That's why your endurance gets better as you run, as your body expends energy. When you lift weights, you're causing inflammation in the form of micro tears in your muscle, and the body rebuilds as a stronger version of yourself. So your body's goal is to adapt and get better at that particular activity so it can handle the same stimulus better next time. But if you just blindly follow calories in versus calories out and treat all calories equal, that adaptation is completely ignored because we're just looking at the calories burned. But if you look at the adaptation, which again is the most important part of exercise, the narrative changes drastically. Are you with me so far? Smash that like button if you are. Now, let's go back to cardio. Yes, it does burn more calories when you do it. That's why people fall into chronic cardio patterns because they think that more is better. But you're also telling your body to get better at doing cardio. Again, that's the adaptation. And cardio doesn't require a lot of strength. In fact, having less muscle actually makes you better at running because you become more efficient at burning calories. Think about how long distance marathon runners look. So your body actually learns how to burn less calories. And over time, your metabolism slows down as a byproduct. And when you look at studies on cardio for weight loss, what you see typically on average is about half the weight being lost from fat and the other half being lost from muscle. It's catabolic. So part of the adaptation that comes from doing a lot of cardio is to reduce muscle mass, which is probably one of the worst things you can do to the human body. Again, this is a way for the body to become more efficient at doing cardio because muscle is a very energy expensive tissue to build and maintain. And since your metabolism has slowed down, it then becomes harder to lose fat. You now have to eat less calories to maintain any weight loss you've achieved. The worst part is you actually didn't really decrease your body fat percentage. If you lose 10 pounds, for example, 5 from fat and 5 from muscle, you actually haven't changed much physically. You're just a smaller, flabby version of yourself. This is more commonly known as being skinny fat. The only difference is you've also made yourself weaker because you now have less muscle and you've lowered your metabolism. You've decreased the organ that's most effective at improving insulin sensitivity because muscle is the largest site for glucose disposal. And you've also reduced the tissue that burns the most amount of calories. Again, muscle is a very energy expensive tissue to build and maintain. So when cardio is your exercise solution for weight loss, yes, you're gonna get results initially. Again, half of it muscle and half from fat. But inevitably, you're gonna hit the dreaded weight loss plateau. And in order to lose any more weight, you have to do more cardio. You've now become a slave to this form of exercise. Again, this is why people get into chronic cardio patterns. Or you have to cut your calories even more. This is when you often hear people just eating 1,000 calories every day, but they're not losing weight. And this is one of the biggest reasons why people fail and quit all the time. Their metabolism has gone down the drain, that even if they just smell a donut, they'll gain 5 pounds. On the other hand, if you look at resistance training, I'm talking about lifting weights or body weight resistance training. Resistance training, by the way, is using resistance to directly build muscle and strength. I want to clarify that because I can string together a few bodyweight movements like jumping jacks, mountain climbers, skipping a rope, and go from one station to the other. That's basically like doing cardio. But when you do resistance training properly, yes, it doesn't burn as many calories as when you do cardio. But what you're doing is you're sending a signal to your body to get better at lifting weights. The adaptation is for you to get stronger so you can lift those weights a lot easier next time. The body builds muscle as a byproduct. This is why it's so important to get adequate and quality protein in your diet, by the way. And the most bioavailable form of protein comes from animal products because that becomes the building blocks that your body uses to rebuild itself and make you stronger. What are the side effects of having more muscle? And there's so many. Like for starters, you'll have a faster metabolism, which means you can eat more food. This is why muscle is your metabolic currency. It's what pays for the dance. Again, muscle is the largest site for glucose disposal, which automatically translates to better insulin sensitivity the more muscle you have. And my entire channel is dedicated towards educating people why that's important. For starters, it's crucial during the aging process because when you look at the diseases related to cognitive decline like Alzheimer's and dementia, a big part of that is the body's ability to process glycogen and how insulin sensitive you are. I mean, Alzheimer's is now being referred to as type 3 diabetes. Building muscle is protective against all that. This is why muscle is the organ of longevity. What does weight loss look like when you lift weights? It starts off slow, and oftentimes what happens is you lose fat and you build muscle. So although the scale doesn't move much, what actually happens is you've traded 5 pounds of body fat to 5 pounds of muscle, which by the way means you're smaller. Muscle is very dense, way more dense than body fat. It takes up something like a third less space. That's why the number on the scale doesn't always tell the full story. So if you lose 5 pounds of body fat but gain 5 pounds of muscle, you'd still be smaller. Your clothes will fit better. You'll have a smaller waist and tighter skin. That is the secret of having that tight and toned look. By the way, if you're a female watching this and you're somehow scared that you're gonna get bulky, I have been lifting weights for 16 years and I was a national level weightlifter, putting over twice my body weight overhead when I competed. And I look this average. So you're gonna be okay. Again, when you lift weights, the weight loss starts off slow, and then it gradually picks up as your metabolism speeds up, and as you build more muscle, you start to burn more calories at rest. That's right. You'll burn calories all the time, which again means you get to eat more food in the process. Who doesn't want that? Muscle is like compound interest. It starts working for you once you build it. That means you can burn 500 more calories a day, let's say, just watching Netflix. It doesn't require you to actively try to burn calories like doing cardio. And this is important because when you look at the average person, and I have been coaching for 9 years now, I'd be lying to you if I can get the average Jane or Joe to work out 5 or 6 days a week. It just doesn't happen. That's a pipe dream. What you can realistically expect is 2 to 3 days a week on average. Well, 2 to 3 days of a full body resistance training routine is actually plenty to trigger those benefits beneficial adaptations I just mentioned. That doesn't happen with other forms of exercise. And as always, the truth is usually somewhere in between. I'm not saying you should never do cardio. I mean, I guess it's better than doing nothing. If you can go to the gym 5 days a week, for example, feel free to integrate a couple of cardio-based workouts where you're staying under your maximum aerobic heart rate. But if we're strictly talking about which exercise is better for fat loss, it's not even close if we're comparing lifting weights versus cardio.